Good morning. We have a lot to talk about today, so thanks for joining us. We're going to dive right in. This is really a topic that we've been wanting to talk about just because conversations around it really aren't happening. People are on board, they're excited with applying AI to their workflow and for efficiency and analysis and ideation. But there's really another side to it that people are also watching, something a little bit scarier, and that's what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah, so these are five kind of under the radar trends that we're noticing in 2026 that really people should be talking about that we're not talking about. AI is great at a lot of things, but it's also causing some concerns and some kind of warning signs, if you will, that as marketers we really need to be tracked of. So number one is AI is just quietly rewriting what attribution is without telling you that they're doing it. So what we're noticing is a lot of the platforms, and pretty much all of them, Google, we've got Meta, programmatic platforms, they're all increasingly using this black box technology to rewrite the attribution models. And that's, if we think about it, AI is written to create assumptions, to take large volumes of data and simmer it down into a few points. And so, as these platforms are rolling out AI tools to integrate and to optimize performances within the platforms, that's exactly what's happening. They're taking large volumes of data and they're simulating it down into a few attribution points. And what that means is that your reported conversions don't necessarily equal an actual conversion anymore. AI is kind of filling the gaps where we're maybe missing some tracking or some cookies, or because of privacy data, things are lacking. And it's filling those gaps and it's creating connection points that may or may not be authentic or true. So when you look at your campaign reporting and your metrics, it might not actually reflect reality. And so the question is, are you optimizing your campaigns or are you optimizing to the algorithm's assumptions? It's a valid question. And so a couple of things to really watch for as you're monitoring and managing campaigns for your organization or through an agency is one is just really watch those conversion rates. And do they actually correspond to true KPIs within the pipeline? Are they actually equating to leads? Are they actually equating to sales? Are the platform reported conversions significantly higher than what they have been or what's being reported in other systems? And is there sudden performance improvements following an optimization or some sort of algorithm change? So those are three warning signs that you really need to be monitoring for. And do that by comparing your actual conversions versus your CRM, what's reported in the platforms versus what you're really seeing. Again, it's that gut check thing. Is what Google or Meta or your DSP or TikTok or Snapchat is what they're telling you really align with the data that you're seeing on the back end. Track your cost per qualified lead, not just cost per acquisition, but per qualified lead, and really get down to some of those core business metrics that matter. And then run periodic tests just to see, like, shut off one area or change the geo or make little changes that really kind of stress test the system and see if your metrics remain consistent. Because what we really want to do is if performance improves in the platforms, but you're not seeing it in the business, then the AI is getting too much credit for some of the work that they're doing on the back end.
Yeah. The second trend we really want to watch is synthetic audiences. They're really replacing the real ones. Audience targeting is shifting from real people to that AI generated probabilities instead of relying on clear behavioral data. Platforms now create modeled or synthetic audiences based on minimal inputs. That means that you're no longer targeting your known users. You're targeting predictions of people who might behave like your audience. While this can scale your reach and help improve the top of funnel metrics, your clicks and traffic, it often comes at the cost of the quality. You might see some strong engagement, but weak conversions or poor lead qualities also tend to come through. This tends to make your first party data more valuable, but it also is abstracted as platforms reinterpret it. To manage this, you need to actively compare performance between your first party audiences which is your real audiences, and your AI modeled ones, your synthetic audiences, and focus deeper on signals that show you, time on site, page views, sales acceptance rates. The bottom line is AI can increase volume, but it can also dilute precision. So you need to keep a close eye on whether you're attracting the right audience or more of that synthetic audience.
Yeah, so the third trend that we want to talk about today is that how AI is really shifting from optimization to decision making, sometimes overriding the human strategy behind the campaign. And so it's no longer just optimizing bids, but it's also making some strategic decisions within the campaign that you may or may not be aware of. So it's adjusting budgets across multiple channels. It's making creative selections and audience prioritization based on what it perceives as really working. So again, if it's making assumptions on performance and it's being overcredited for that performance, then it's going to continue to optimize the campaign in that direction. And so this really matters to marketers specifically, is because we're losing some control over why these decisions are being made. And the human strategy is really being compressed to some of those initial inputs and setup, and not throughout the life of the campaign. So where AI used to really be our assistant, it's now acting as a media director for a lot of our campaigns, which is a little bit scary coming from somebody with extensive media background. So we really want to watch for budget shifts. Like, how are those budget shifts automatically being applied? And does it align with some definite rationale? Like, are there true data points behind those budget shifts? Or are there some assumptions that are being made that are not backed up with some of those business KPIs? Platform recommendations consistently are pushing towards automation. So if they're continuing to tell you, increase your budget, broaden your search, add additional search terms, those are all really red flags that you need to be watching for. And don't just automatically implement some of those platform recommendations. Make sure you're understanding why it's being recommended, what the goal outcome is, and does it really align with that initial strategy that was set in the beginning of the campaign. And then also, it's reducing visibility. Like, a lot of this is happening. We don't understand how some of these AI tools are looking at data and analyzing data and finding inputs. And so we don't often have that visibility into the why behind what we're doing it. So make sure you're digging into that. A good way to keep track of this is, one, just keep your own log of changes that are happening within your campaigns. That could be budget shifts, bid strategies, targeting optimizations, any of those. Track those over time, and then set some guardrails. And I think this is the number one takeaway I have in this section particularly. Make sure that you have boundaries in place so the AI does not exceed the boundaries that you have. Having very clear budget allocations and maximum budget allocations. Making sure you have very clear audience parameters of who you're targeting, but also audience exclusions of who you're not targeting, who are not the ideal audience for you. And then also, keyword exclusions, geographic exclusions, all of those boundaries need to be in place and clearly communicated to these platforms. And then making sure you're just reviewing all the data. Spend time consistently going in and monitoring the performance, monitoring the reports, comparing it against reality. And so overall, don't stop doing automations. That's the key. I don't think we could if we wanted to at this point. We don't want to stop doing the automations, but just make sure you have really, really clear boundaries in place for all of your platforms.
Yeah. The fourth trend that we're seeing with AI is reporting is becoming more of a story, not just data. AI is transforming reporting from raw data into interpreted narratives. Different tools like GA4 and Looker now automatically can generate those insights and summaries and recommendations, essentially telling a story about your performance. While it does create efficiency and makes reporting more digestible, it also introduces some risks. Teams may begin to trust the narrative without validating the underlying data, especially when insights sound confident, but they can lack some of that supporting evidence. In many cases, AI-generated recommendations are generic or repetitive, like increasing budget or expanding targeting. The danger really, it shifts in that reporting from the objective analysis to more of a persuasive storytelling. To counter this, you need to enforce discipline. Always trace back your insights to actual data, require supporting metrics, and cross-check what you're finding in platforms like your CRM systems and your different analytics tools. The simple rule is if you can't validate an insight, it's just an opinion. AI can help explain performance, but it shouldn't be replacing critical thinking.
So true. And we are almost at 10, we are at 10 minutes already. Trend number 5, I'm going to just introduce this topic. We're going to post a blog to our site later this week that has all 5 of these trends in additional detail, with what to monitor, how to combat it, what you need to be aware of. That will be on our website. I just posted a link. We will share that later this week with that. But the 5th trend really is in AI automation. And AI is really starting to create ad assets for you. Whether you have enough of them or not, it's starting to, in the back end, test iterations and variations. And we've come across this a couple of times. And this is really an important trend to watch, especially if you're in a high compliance industry. And so make sure you read that if you are worried about AI creating ads for you, potentially shifting things off brand or adding in some terms that might not be in compliance. And so that's the 5th trend. I don't want to skip over it, but we are going to skip over it a little bit. So there's really 3 metrics that matter more than ever. When we look at all 5 trends, there's 3 key areas that will help us as marketers, making sure that we're maintaining and that we're doing what we can to keep the AI in check, if you will. And one is monitoring true business outcomes. Know what those KPIs are that are really critical to your business, to your brand, to your industry. Actual true qualified leads, SQLs, looking at income and revenue, cost per revenue, closing time, those key metrics that really move the business, not just what's being reported by the channels. Look at that lead quality. You might be getting an increase in leads, but are you also getting an increase in spam leads or unqualified leads? If you start seeing that to increase, you need to go back and look at your audience parameters and how AI is targeting and how the channels are set up for targeting. And then just consistency over time. Don't just look at a 2-week or 4-week window, making sure you're taking time to look at the larger picture and stepping back and seeing how it's changed over a period of time. And so the one thing, we've heard this all the time when we talk about AI, trust but verify. We need to trust AI to provide a scale, to provide a speed, to identify that pattern recognition. But we also need to verify with true business data, human judgment, and controlled testing.
Yeah. To sum up what we've gone through here, and we're at 13 minutes now. Sorry, guys. AI it isn't changing how we execute marketing. It's really changing what we know about performance. The biggest risk isn't falling behind. It's trusting what you can't see. The brands that win won't be the ones using the most automation. It'll be the ones who know how to validate it. We've covered a lot of points here. We summarized trend 5, like Karina said, that will be posted on our website. But as always, if you want to have a deeper conversation with us, feel free to reach out. We would be happy to have that conversation at any time.